Hello, and welcome back to Cajun Curiosities. In this video, I'm going to address and rework a do-it-yourselfer's attempt at repairing a broken ferrule and tip. Unfortunately, he chose to undertake this exercise despite lacking the knowledge of the precise tolerances needed to complete such a task. Because of this lack of knowledge, he began the repair with basic tools he had on hand, which seemed to be grossly insufficient, to say the least. I believe he told me he hit the cue ball so hard that he broke the ferrule and split the shaft back to where it looks like he tried to cut a new shoulder. See, he had trouble cutting the new tenon and shoulder with any semblance of symmetry. Do you think he used a pocket knife? Lucky for him, he could see that it didn't seem to be working, because he ceased all attempts and found help. Okay, so let's get it on the lathe, and we'll go ahead and clean up the shoulder first. Make sure it's true, flat, and we'll go ahead and clean up that tenon. I want to make sure the tenon is round. I've eliminated any of the knife cuts. Now I'm going to change my cutter. What I'd like to do is go ahead and cut off the excess and just leave the length of a tenon that my ferrule will need. Using the cross sled with the parting tool, I can go ahead and remove that end piece. Now I'm going to get down to a width of tenon that will accept the ferrule and leave a real nice large shoulder. Now with the calipers, I can see that I've turned it down to about 5/16 or 0.3125. As you can see here, the ferrule only has a 1/4 inch hole. It won't fit. Well, that's no good. And here's a 1/4 inch bit. It'll prove the hole's a 1/4 inch. And as you can see, it's a lot smaller than the tenon, which is 5/16. To the drill press we go. Just get that 5/16 bit tightened up, and we'll go ahead and enlarge this hole. Since there's already a pretty nice sized hole in the ferrule, the larger drill bit will follow that channel and pretty much stay centered. Okay, back to the lathe. Here you can see me cutting grooves. These are to hold the glue a little better. Now to make sure the ferrule actually fits, and it does. Good job. Now to mix some 2-part epoxy, you can see here I use DevCon resin first, and now I'm adding hardener. Now to mix it up a little bit, I've got a light on my head, one of those headlamps, and I guess I'm blowing out the lighting. Okay, let's fill this ferrule with 2-part epoxy. Make sure I get it in there really good. Some on the face of it. Now to install it on the tenon. These things make a little mess. A napkin underneath it. It's going to push out. I'm going to push it back in here. Last thing for now is to apply pressure to the ferrule against the shoulder using a block and my tailstock to wipe up the excess glue, wait for it to dry. Alright, we'll come back the next day, it's all dry. Now I'll use the cross slide to go ahead and cut the end of the ferrule and flush, nice and flat, so I have a good surface to attach the lever to. Turn this ferrule down to the size of the shaft. You can see me doing that here. little bit at a time. One last go for a nice smooth cut. And now we'll go ahead and flush it out, sand it down, make it smooth. We'll use various different sandpaper grits. Start here with 100 grit. I'll go down to 150. I'll end up going to 220 is next, I believe. The yellow sandpaper. Just see how it's smoothing out there. Looks pretty good. So on we go. Yeah, here I've got the 220 going. Sorry about the light blowing out like that. Now I'm getting into the sanding sponges. This one here is 320. And the next one will be 600. And then 1,000. At the speed of the lathe and the grit of the sponge, it comes out really smooth. It's not polished yet, but it sure has a smooth finish. Now here to rough up the end of the ferrule so it'll accept the tip, I'll use 100 grit sandpaper with the lathe turning slowly. And then we take the back side of the tip and sand all that flat. You want to make sure you have a good rough area for the glue to settle. We'll go ahead and apply the glue now and stick the tip to the end of the ferrule. We'll make sure that sets for a little while. We'll put a little pressure against it with the cross sled and wait about 5 minutes. It should be done now, and all I need to do is go ahead and flush that tip out, as you see me doing here. I'll take a few passes on the side. Like I flushed the ferrule, I'll end up with some sandpaper and go through different grits. Right now the tip is a little bit tall, so I'm just cutting off the very tip, so it'll have a lower profile. Here I'll flush out the side. I'll use 100 to start off with, and I'll go through the different grits. Right on up to 1,000 grit. And you won't even be able to feel the seam between the ferrule and the shaft, or the tip and the ferrule, if I do my job correctly. And it sure is starting to feel smooth. Now I'm smoothing it out with this 600 sanding sponge, and just got one more to go. You might see me cleaning my sanding sponge here on the steady rest as it spins. Get some of the dust out of the sponge, and I can just finish her up. So here we are trying to shape the tip. I use a razor blade for that. Kind of use the cross-cutting slide just to give me some backing there. I'll flush out any roughness I put on with the razor blade. Next is to add a little bit of key chalk and then finish her up with some secret sauce. Okay, now that's done, and I need to go ahead and recondition the shaft. You can see I need to feather it out where I flush the shaft to the ferrule. I'll do that with sandpaper, and I'll go from 100 grit all the way to 1,000 grit. In between grits, I'll end up running the sandpaper long ways along the grain. That takes out all the swirls. You can see me doing that here. And now I'm just going through the different sanding grits get up to these higher grits, you don't really need to sand any swirls. Just keep it spinning and go through the different grits. I'm up to 1,000 now. And next I'll end up putting another finish on it. It's called shaft sealer. I need to seal the wood. And then eventually I'll add some wax, smooth it out, take any excess off with a rag. And I do 3 coats of the sanding sealer. And then I sand that out with a 1,000 grit sanding sponge. I want to get that really smooth. So here we're going to apply the wax. And you need to press really hard with that lathe spinning pretty quickly. You want it to get about as hot as you can hold on to it. Get that wax all melted up. It makes such a smooth, polished finish. And then any excess I can go ahead and sand off, as you can see here with the 1,000 grit sponge. Now just to wipe the whole shaft down and it's reconditioned. The whole job's over. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to press like and share. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, go ahead and click subscribe. I believe the next video will be a mortise and tenon king size bed. Well, thanks a lot for watching. God bless.